In the tender embrace of an April evening in 2025, St. Peter's Square lay bathed in the soft, golden hues of a Roman sunset, its ancient cobblestones reflecting the solemn weight of morning, as thousands gathered to bid farewell to Pope Francis. The air was thick with the scent of burning incense, the gentle tolling of St. Peter's Basilica's bells, weaving a sacred melody, and the murmured prayers of pilgrims, their candles flickering like stars against the gathering dusk. Among the stoic ranks of the Swiss Guard, Sergeant Adrian Keller stood at his post, his vibrant blue and yellow uniform, a vivid testament to centuries of tradition, his halberd gleaming in the fading light, his dark eyes shadowed with grief, yet alight with quiet purpose. Then, in a moment that stunned the world, Keller stepped forward, placing a small wooden cross on the Pope's casket, a bold, faith-driven act that shattered the Vatican's rigid protocol and sent ripples across the globe. For those of you who felt the call of faith, the courage to honor a loved one's wish, or the strength to break tradition for love, the Swiss Guard are more than ceremonial sentinels in Renaissance garb. They're a symbol of devotion, as enduring as the values you've cherished through years of conviction, like the memory of a grandparent's wisdom shared by a fireside, the warmth of a selfless act that changed a life, or the resolve to stand for what's right despite the cost. Why did Keller risk his career, his honor, for a single gesture? Subscribe now to uncover the truth behind his courage, and join us in celebrating stories of love and faith that echo far beyond the Vatican's sacred walls, inspiring hearts from Rome to the farthest corners of the world. Sergeant Adrian Keller was a man of deep-rooted faith, his sturdy frame and steady hands shaped by a childhood in the rugged embrace of the Swiss Alps, where the snow-capped peaks of Lucerne and the quiet valleys of his village taught him resilience, reverence, and the power of a heart-led life. At Vignot, his sharp features, framed by close-cropped black hair, just visible beneath his ceremonial helm, carried the quiet intensity of a man who'd pledged his life to service. Raised by his grandfather, Hans Keller, a former Swiss Guard who served under Pope Paul VI in the 1960s, Adrian grew up on stories of the Vatican, tales of duty, sacrifice, and faith shared by a crackling fire in their stone-walled cottage. Hans' weathered hands, passing young Adrian a polished ceremonial helm, had sealed his path. Serve with love, Adrian, always. That's the true guard's duty. Those words became a guiding star, leading Keller to join the Swiss Guard at 21. His training, a rigorous blend of combat skills, spiritual discipline, and historical reverence. His oath to protect the Pope was a vow he carried like a sacred flame. His blue and yellow uniform, with its Renaissance stripes and golden embroidery, marking him as a guardian of tradition. But beneath the pageantry was a man whose heart beat for compassion, whose goal, protect with heart, echoed his grandfather's lessons and shaped his every action. To you, who've honored a family legacy, perhaps keeping a tradition alive through generations, acting on a loved one's wisdom in a moment of doubt, or standing firm in your beliefs against the tide, Keller's devotion might resonate, a testament to the power of faith to guide action, even when tradition demands silence. That April evening, St. Peter's Square was a sea of sorrow, a tapestry woven from the grief of mourners, who traveled from every corner of the globe. Rome's shopkeepers, Brazilian nuns, Nigerian priests, and British families clutching rosaries, their faces etched with loss as they honored Pope Francis, whose papacy had been a beacon of humility, justice, and boundless love. The scent of melting wax and myrrh hung heavy. The bells of St. Peter's Basilica, tolling a solemn rhythm that seemed to pulse with the crowd's collective heartbeat. Their prayers, a soft hum beneath the sunset's amber glow. Keller stood at his post near the basilica steps, his halberd steady, his posture rigid as protocol demanded stillness, silence, obedience to rules unbroken since the Guard's founding in 1506. Days earlier, in a quiet moment in the Apostolic Palace, Francis had summoned him, his frail hands trembling, as he pressed a small wooden cross into Keller's palm. The Pope's eyes, warm but piercing, had held Keller's gaze. "Adrian," he'd said, his voice soft yet firm, "when the time comes, act with love, not tradition. This cross is a promise. Keep it close." The cross, carved from olive wood by an Argentine artisan, was simple, its edges worn smooth, its weight heavy with meaning, a symbol of Francis's call to prioritize compassion over ceremony, to embody the Church's heart in a world bound by rules. Keller touched the cross now, tucked inside his tunic against his chest, his brow furrowed with conflict. Tradition demanded he remain a statue, an unyielding sentinel of the Vatican's order. But Francis's words burned like a flame, a mission he couldn't ignore, a promise that weighed heavier than the halberd in his hands. "For you, who faced a choice between duty and heart, perhaps defying expectations to honor a promise, acting on faith when rigid rules held you back, or choosing love over convention." Keller's turmoil might echo a moment when your convictions demanded courage, when a whisper of guidance became a call you couldn't silence. As the funeral procession moved through the square, the Pope's casket draped in white and gold, carried by bearers in somber black, Keller's fellow guard, Matteo Rossi, stood beside him, his whisper sharp and urgent. "Don't move. Adrian, we're the guard. Stillness is our duty." Matteo, a 32-year-old guard from Ticino with a strict adherence to protocol, sensed Keller's tension, his glance a warning as sharp as a blade. Matteo's family had served the Vatican for generations, their pride in tradition unyielding, and his loyalty to the Guard's rules was a mirror of that heritage. But Francis's words, "Act with love," echoed louder in Keller's mind, drowning out Matteo's caution, his hand tightening on the cross, its wood warm against his skin. His dark eyes followed the casket, his heart pounding with the weight of his promise, the weight of a moment that could redefine his life. The crowd's prayers swelled, a chorus of Latin and Italian, cardinals in scarlet robes leading the procession, their faces solemn, their presence a reminder of the Vatican's unyielding hierarchy. Among them, Cardinal Lorenzo Rossi, a distant relative of Matteo and a strict traditionalist, walked with a stern gaze, his influence a shadow over the Guard's conduct. Keller's mind raced. Protocol forbade any deviation, any gesture beyond his assigned role as a silent guardian. Yet the cross in his tunic felt alive, its call stronger than the rules that bound him to stillness. He recalled his grandfather's stories of guards who'd served with heart. Like Giovanni Lutz, who in 1978 shielded a pilgrim from a rioting crowd, defying orders to save a life. His name whispered in Keller's village as a hero. The casket drew closer, the crowd's murmurs a soft tide, the bells tolling a final note, and Keller's resolve hardened, his faith outweighing the fear of consequence. His promise to Francis a beacon in the dusk. Keller acted, his movement swift and deliberate, a single step forward that shattered the sacred silence of the square. He drew the cross from his tunic, its olive wood catching the sunset's fleeting light, and placed it gently on the casket as it passed, his gloved hand steady, his eyes glistening with purpose, his breath a quiet prayer. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath that rippled through thousands, a wave of shock that silenced the prayers and stilled the candles' flicker. Phones rose like a forest, capturing the unprecedented act a Swiss guard, bound by centuries of stillness, breaking protocol. In the heart of St. Peter's Square, at the funeral of a beloved pope, The bells paused, their echo fading. The cardinals froze, their scarlet robes a stark contrast to the crowd's muted colors. And Matteo's sharp inhale was a blade of disbelief. "Adrian, what have you done?" But Keller stood tall, his face calm, his heart anchored by Francis's words, his blue and yellow uniform a beacon of defiance and devotion. The cross rested on the casket, a small symbol of love in a sea of solemn ceremony. Its presence a quiet revolution that spoke louder than any homily. Videos spread across X instantly. Clips titled, "God's Bold Act at Pope's Funeral" and "Cross of Love," trending worldwide within minutes. Hashtags like Act for Love, Vatican Heart, and Francis Legacy igniting feeds from Rome's trattorias to London's pubs, from Buenos Aires plazas to Nairobi's churches. A mourner, Elena Moretti, 16, stood among the pilgrims, her gray hair framed by a black veil, her tearful nod, a beacon of approval as she clutched her rosary. He honored Francis. She whispered to her daughter, Sophia, her voice carrying to nearby mourners, her words a spark of support in the crowd's divided hum. But not all approved Cardinal Lorenzo. Rossi glared from the procession, his lips tight, his disapproval, a shadow that loomed over Keller's act, a silent promise of repercussions. The crowd's reactions were a complex tapestry, a blend of awe, reverence, and debate. Some pilgrims clapped softly, their hands trembling, their eyes wet with emotion, seeing in Keller's gesture the essence of Francis's teachings, love above all. A young priest from Naples, Father Marco, tweeted from the square, "This guard showed Francis's heart love over rules, faith in action." A British tourist, Emily from Leeds, posted, "Saw it live in Rome, cried for the guard's faith. It was beautiful." A group of Argentine pilgrims chanted softly, "Francisco, Francisco," their voices linking Keller's act to their beloved Pope, but traditionalists in the crowd and on X countered with sharp criticism. He disrespected the Vatican's sanctity. One Roman user posted, "A guard's role is obedience, not theatrics." Another wrote, echoing Cardinal Rossi's glare, "The footage, bathed in the sunset's amber glow, captured every detail Keller's step, the cross's gentle placement, the crowd's gasp, Elena's tearful nod, Matteo's stunned expression, a moment frozen in time, shared millions of times." Keller returned to his post, his halberd steady, his posture rigid, but the weight of his act settled on him like a mantle. The eyes of the guard, the cardinals, and the world, a silent judgment that followed him into the night. That evening, the Vatican Council summoned Keller to a dim chamber in the Apostolic Palace, its walls lined with ancient tapestries depicting papal triumphs, its air thick with the scent of old wood and authority. Cardinal Lorenzo Rossi, his scarlet robes stark against the chamber's shadows, led the inquiry, his voice cold and cutting. "You shamed us." Keller, defiling a sacred moment with reckless theatrics. "Explain yourself." The council, a mix of traditionalists and moderates, watched in silence, their faces a gallery of judgment. Keller stood firm, his uniform immaculate, his voice steady as he drew the olive wood cross from his tunic, holding it up like a relic. "This was Pope Francis's wish," he said, his dark eyes meeting Rossi's glare. "Days before his passing, he gave me this cross and asked me to act with love, not tradition." I honored his will. His words hung in the air, a quiet defiance that softened some faces but hardened others. Cardinal Giovanni Moretti, a progressive ally of Francis known for his advocacy of the poor, nodded from the council, his gray eyes warm with understanding. This was his will. "Lorenzo, the boy honored the Pope's heart, not our rules." Moretti's voice, calm but firm, carried the weight of Francis' legacy, and the council's debate erupted. Rossi arguing for dismissal, Moretti for mercy, others wavering between tradition and compassion. Keller stood silent, the cross in his hand, a talisman. His grandfather's words, serve with love a shield against the storm. After hours of deliberation, a compromise emerged. Keller was reassigned to the Vatican archives, spared dismissal, but removed from ceremonial duty. His act preserved as a gesture of faith, but buried under the weight of protocol. Rossi's glare lingered as Keller left the chamber, but Moretti's quiet nod was a promise of support, a spark of hope in the shadows. Keller found new purpose in the Vatican archives, a labyrinth of manuscripts, scrolls, and relics hidden beneath the Apostolic Palace, where he catalogued papal letters and medieval texts, his hands gentle on fragile parchment, his heart lighter despite the demotion. The archives, with their scent of aged paper and candle wax, became a sanctuary, a place to reflect on his act and its meaning. The olive wood cross, now worn as a pendant around his neck, gleamed against his simpler work uniform, a constant reminder of Francis's mission and his grandfather's lessons. His days were filled with quiet tasks, sorting letters from the Counter-Reformation, transcribing notes from Vatican II, but his evenings were alive with letters from the world, envelopes piling in his small archive office, their stamps bearing the colors of the UK, Argentina, Kenya, and beyond. His act had sparked a global movement, with ex-posts amplifying the story to millions. God's faith moves us, and he showed us France's love. A campaign, Act for Love, launched in the UK. Its roots in Keller's gesture, its mission to encourage acts of compassion over rigid rules. Parishes from York to Cornwall embraced it. Their initiatives, food drives for the homeless, youth outreach for the lonely, community care for the marginalized, bearing the campaign's slogan, Love over Tradition. Posters appeared in church halls and community centers, showing a guard in blue and yellow holding a cross, the words Act for Love in bold. Their design a tribute to Keller's courage. A vicar from Leeds wrote, Your act renewed our faith, showed us to prioritize love over ceremony. A Bristol schoolgirl, Clara, shared, I helped a lonely classmate because of you. Mr. Guard. Keller read each letter by lamplight, his fingers tracing the cross pendant, his grandfather's voice echoing, Serve with love, always for you, who've broken tradition for kindness, perhaps defying a workplace rule to help a struggling colleague, honoring a loved one's wish over societal norms, or acting on faith when others urged restraint. Keller's journey might recall a moment when your heart led a quiet revolution, when love became your guide and changed the world around you. The Act for Love campaign grew, its message spreading like wildfire across the UK and beyond, touching schools, churches, and community centres. In Manchester, a parish launched a shelter for refugees, its doors marked with a wooden cross, its founders citing Keller's act as their spark. He showed us faith is action, they told a local reporter. In Glasgow, a youth group raised 12 honor for homeless outreach, their t-shirts emblazoned with Act for Love, their leader quoting Keller in a community newsletter. His cross was a call to care. In Cardiff, a school adopted the campaign, teaching students to prioritize kindness, their classrooms filled with drawings of guards and crosses, their teacher writing to Keller, You've inspired our kids to act with heart. Internationally, the story resonated, with the Canadian Church sharing. This Guards Cross inspired our winter charity drive, feeding 200 families. A Sydney priest emailed the Vatican, We're teaching compassion in our parish, using your Guard's story as our guide. The campaign's reach extended to social media, with Act for Love and Francis' legacy joined by Faith in Action. Users sharing stories of kindness, helped a homeless man with a meal because of the Guard. A Birmingham team posted, started a kindness club at school, inspired by Keller. A Leeds teacher shared. A mural appeared in Rome's Trastevere district, vibrant and bold, depicting a Swiss Guard placing a cross. The words Love over Tradition, painted in sweeping letters. Its artist, a young Roman, citing Keller's act as a call to faith in a cynical world. Keller, unaware of the full scope of his impact, worked quietly in the archives, his days a rhythm of manuscripts and reflection, his evenings a ritual of reading letters that poured in from the world. One afternoon, a child, Luca, recognized him outside the Vatican's gates, his small arms hugging Keller's legs as he shouted, "You're the guard with the cross. You gave us hope." Luca's mother, Maria, a teacher from Lazio, smiled warmly. "He's right, you did. The kids talk about you in school." Keller knelt, his voice soft, his blue and yellow uniform a memory now. "You're the hope. Luca, keep being kind." The boy's hug lingered, a spark that warmed Keller's heart, a reminder of why he'd acted. Letters from the UK flooded his office, their words a chorus of gratitude that filled the quiet of his archive work. A London nurse wrote, "I stayed late to comfort a scared patient, inspired by your faith in action." A Cornwall fisherman shared, "I helped a struggling neighbor with his boat because of your cross." A York schoolboy, inspired by a classroom lesson on Keller, wrote, "I gave my lunch to a kid who was hungry because you showed love." Keller read these by candlelight, his fingers tracing the cross pendant, his heart swelling with the pride he hadn't felt since his swearing in as a guard. His grandfather's helm watching from his desk. Matteo, once critical of Keller's act, sought him out in a small Roman cafe near the Vatican, his eyes heavy with regret. Over espresso, he clasped Keller's hand, his voice low. "I see now. Adrian, you honored Francis, not protocol. I was wrong." Their friendship, strained by the funeral's tension, was rebuilt over shared stories of their training. Their laughter, a bridge over past divides. Matteo's cousin, Cardinal Lorenzo Rossi, remained distant, but his influence waned as the Vatican softened its stance, with Cardinal Giovanni Moretti advocating for Keller's eventual return to ceremonial duty. Moretti visited the archives one quiet morning, his presence rare, his words kind. "You've done more for Francis' legacy than many in these halls. Adrian, your cross lives in the world." Keller nodded, the cross pendant gleaming, his purpose clear, his faith unshaken. The Vatican, stirred by the global response, began to reconsider its protocols, with Moretti pushing for reforms to allow guards greater discretion in moments of moral urgency. A slow but hopeful shift inspired by Keller's act. Keller's act rippled beyond Rome, reshaping communities and inspiring action across the globe. In Birmingham, at Tigdeb, a priest launched a youth program. Its meetings, teaching kids to act with love. Their hope sparked by a guard's courage. Their logo, a cross and a helm. In Edinburgh, a charity run raised 15,000 for community care. Its runners wearing cross pendants, their chant, "For Francis," for Keller echoing through the city's historic streets. In London, a school adopted Cross Days, annual events teaching students to prioritize kindness. Their lessons shaped by Keller's story. Their classrooms filled with essays on faith and action. A Liverpool student wrote to Keller, "I stood up for a bullied friend at school. Because of you, he's happier now." Churches, from small Cornish chapels to grand York cathedrals, held services on compassion. Their pews filled with the people like you, who saw in Keller a reflection of their own struggles to act with love, to break tradition, to honor faith over fear. A Bristol priest shared in a sermon. This guard's cross reminds us to see with love, to act with courage, to be the help the world needs. A York vicar wrote to Keller, "Your story teaches us to choose love over rules, to be the faith our communities crave." Keller's mates in the guard, once divided by his act, now called him Cross with a mix of jest and respect. Their barracks banter softened by pride. His sister, Clara, a nurse in Lucerne, visited him in Rome. Her hug fierce, her voice warm. "You're making Granddad proud." Adrian, the whole village talks about you. Their parents, retired farmers, sent a care package, Swiss chocolates, a wool scarf, a note in their neat script, "Your faith shines." "Son, we're with you." Keller volunteered at the Vatican Youth Center, teaching children about compassion. His stories of Francis laced with warmth. He taught us love is our duty, always. The kids' drawings of gods with crosses adorned the center's walls, their colors bright, their hope a testament to Keller's impact. A girl, Sophia, whose family had faced hardship, hugged him, her whisper echoing Lucas. "You're my hero, Mr. Adrian." Keller smiled, his voice soft. "You're the brave one." Sophia, his grandfather's helm, now a keepsake in his archive office, watched over his work, a silent guardian of his legacy. The Vatican, in its sacred silence, stood as a symbol of tradition, upheld but also of change forged by faith. A guard step across his placement, a world awakened to the power of love. Keller's story, shared on X, in letters, in murals, became a beacon. Its hashtags: Act for Love, Faith in Action, a call to action. Its message clear: choose love over tradition, act with courage, protect with heart. The cross pendant, worn daily, was a reminder of Francis, of Hans, of every life touched by his gesture. Pilgrims visiting the archives sought him out, their thanks a quiet tide. An Irish nun who'd started a soup kitchen, a Kenyan teacher who'd launched a kindness curriculum, a London retiree who'd volunteered at a shelter, all inspired by the God who'd acted for love. Keller stood in the archives one evening, the cross gleaming, Francis' words a constant guide: act with love. He thought of his grandfather's fireside stories, of Luca's hug, of Sophia's hope, of every letter that filled his office with light. For you, who've acted for love, perhaps breaking a rule to help someone in need, honoring a family legacy with a courageous choice, or standing for faith when tradition resisted. Keller's story is a call to share your moments of heart, to let them live in conversations over coffee, in letters to loved ones, in communities where love takes root and grows. The ripple of Keller's act continued, saving lives through inspired actions across the world. In Manchester, a community center launched a Love in Action program, training volunteers to act with compassion. Its logo a cross and a guard's helm. Its mission rooted in Keller's faith. In Glasgow, a parish raised funds for refugee support, their banners reading for Francis, for Keller, their priest citing the guard's story in a homily. In Cardiff, a school adopted a kindness pledge, its students writing to Keller: "We help others because you showed us how." Internationally, a Brazilian charity started a youth outreach, its leaders inspired by the Guard's Cross, while a South African church launched a food drive, its volunteers wearing cross pendants in his honor. X posts grew, with users sharing stories. "Gave my coat to a homeless woman because of Keller." A Dublin student wrote, "Started a community garden inspired by his faith." A Bristol gardener shared, "Murals sprang up in Buenos Aires, Nairobi, Dublin, each depicting a god with a cross. Their messages of love and action, a global chorus." Keller's sister, Clara, called him one evening, her voice bright. "You're a hero in Lucerne. Adrian, the church bells rang for you." He laughed, his heart full, the cross pendant warm against his chest. Keller's mates in the guard, now reconciled, invited him to their barracks, their toasts to cross filled with warmth. Matteo became a close friend, their coffee meetings, a ritual, their talks of faith and duty, a bond that healed past rifts. Cardinal Moretti's advocacy bore fruit, with whispers of Keller's return to ceremonial duty, a slow process, but a testament to his impact. The Vatican archives, once a place of exile, became a home, its manuscripts a canvas for Keller's quiet service, its silence a space for reflection. Pilgrims continued to seek him, their stories, a tapestry of change. A Rome baker who fed the poor, a London teacher who mentored at-risk youth, A Kenyan nurse who cared for orphans, all sparked by a God's faith. Keller volunteered at the youth center weekly. His lessons on kindness laced with Francis's teachings. Love is our strength, our duty, our legacy. The children's drawings multiplied, their crosses and guards a vibrant gallery of hope. A boy, Marco, whose father had left, clung to Keller. His whisper a vow, "I'll be kind like you." Keller ruffled his hair, his voice gentle. "You already are." Marco, the Vatican, in its timeless grace, stood as a testament to tradition, upheld but also to change, forged by a single act of faith. A guard's step, a cross's placement, a world awakened to the power of love over rules. Keller's story, shared in letters, on X, in murals, and sermons, became a beacon, its message enduring. Choose love, act with courage, protect with heart. The cross pendant, worn daily, was a reminder of Francis, of Hans, of every life touched by his gesture. From Luca's hug to Clara's letters, from Sophia's hope to Marco's vow, for you, who've acted for love, perhaps defying a rule to help a stranger, honoring a legacy with a bold choice, or standing for faith. When tradition resisted Keller's story, is a call to share your moments of heart, to let them live in stories told at family gatherings, in notes written by candlelight, in communities where love takes root and blooms. Would you act for love? Share your story. Have you broken tradition for kindness? Acted on faith to change a life? Subscribe for more tales of faith and courage. And join us in raising awareness, act with love. Break tradition for kindness. Protect with heart. Click the notification bell to stay updated. And share this story with someone who believes in love over rules, in a God's moment of faith that shines beyond the Vatican, a testament to the courage that moves mountains and the love that endures forever.